A Room of One's Own is an extended essay written by Virginia Woolf and first published. Room of One's Own is an extended essay written by Virginia Woolf and first published in 1929. It explores the themes of women's creativity, literary tradition, and the barriers women face in pursuing their artistic endeavors. Here is a summary of the key ideas in A Room of One's Own. Economic independence. Woolf argues that economic independence is crucial for women to have the freedom and space necessary for creative expression. She emphasizes the need for women to have their own income and a room of their own, both metaphorically and literally, as a space where they can think, create, and write without interruptions. History of women's exclusion. Woolf delves into the historical exclusion of women from the literary canon and reflects on the limited opportunities available for women to pursue education and enter the literary world. She examines the societal and institutional obstacles that have hindered women's participation in literature and calls for a re-evaluation of women's contributions to literary history. Women in fiction. Woolf examines the representation of women in fiction and highlights the limited and often stereotypical roles assigned to female characters. She critiques the ways in which women have been objectified, marginalized, and silenced in literature. She calls for the creation of more complex and nuanced female characters that reflect the diversity of women's experiences. The androgynous mind. Woolf explores the concept of an androgynous mind, which transcends gender binaries and embraces both masculine and feminine qualities. She argues that for women to achieve their creative potential, they must have the freedom to express both traditionally masculine and feminine traits without fear of judgment or restriction. The importance of education. Woolf emphasizes the significance of education in empowering women and enabling them to participate fully in intellectual and artistic pursuits. She criticizes the disparities in educational opportunities between men and women and advocates for equal access to education as a means of fostering creativity and intellectual growth. Women's writing. Woolf reflects on the challenges faced by women writers, including the pressure to conform to male-dominated literary standards and the fear of criticism. She encourages women to write fearlessly, to draw inspiration from their own experiences, and to challenge societal expectations of women's writing. Feminism and social change. Woolf situates her essay within the broader feminist movement, acknowledging the need for societal and structural changes to address the inequalities faced by women. She argues that achieving gender equality requires dismantling patriarchal systems and challenging deeply ingrained societal attitudes. A Room of One's Own is a seminal feminist text that explores the conditions necessary for women's artistic expression and the barriers that have historically impeded their creativity. Woolf's eloquent and insightful analysis continues to inspire discussions about gender, literature, and the importance of women's voices in the arts. Gendered literary tradition. Woolf examines the ways in which the male-dominated literary tradition has shaped women's writing and limited their opportunities for creative expression. She argues that women have been historically excluded from educational institutions, literary circles, and publishing platforms, which has hindered their literary achievements. Women's history and forgotten voices. Woolf explores the lack of recorded history of women's lives and accomplishments, pointing out the many women throughout history whose voices and contributions have been erased or ignored. She calls for the recovery and celebration of women's stories, experiences, and creative endeavors. The influence of society and expectations. Woolf discusses the impact of societal expectations on women's creativity and personal fulfillment. She highlights how gender roles and social norms have restricted women's access to resources, opportunities, and creative freedom. She encourages women to challenge and transcend these limitations to fulfill their artistic potential. The power of fiction. Woolf emphasizes the power of fiction to challenge existing social structures and to imagine new possibilities. She explores how literature can serve as a means of empowerment and liberation, allowing women to express their perspectives, desires, and frustrations. She argues that fiction has the potential to reshape cultural narratives and pave the way for societal change. Intersectionality. Although Woolf primarily focuses on the experiences of white, middle-class women, she acknowledges the importance of considering intersectionality, the interconnectedness of gender with other aspects of identity such as race, class, and sexuality. She recognizes that women's experiences and challenges vary depending on their social and cultural contexts. The importance of intellectual freedom. Woolf emphasizes the significance of intellectual freedom and independent thought for both men and women. She suggests that true progress in society can only occur when individuals have the freedom to think critically, challenge conventions, and pursue their intellectual interests without restriction. The role of language. Woolf examines the limitations of language in accurately representing women's experiences and the need for a language that can capture the complexities of women's lives. She argues that language has been shaped by patriarchal perspectives and urges women writers to create new forms of expression that reflect their own realities. Future possibilities. While acknowledging the challenges women face, Woolf envisions a future where women have equal opportunities for creativity and intellectual pursuits. She believes that as more women gain economic independence, education, and spaces of their own, they will be able to contribute to a more inclusive and diverse literary tradition. A Room of One's Own remains a seminal feminist text that raises important questions about gender, creativity, and equality. Woolf's exploration of women's struggles and the conditions necessary for their artistic expression continues to resonate and inspire ongoing discussions on gender equity and representation in literature. The literary canon. Woolf critiques the male-dominated literary canon and the ways in which it has marginalized and excluded women's voices. She argues that the lack of female representation in the canon perpetuates the notion that women are not capable of producing great literature. She calls for a re-evaluation of the canon to include the works of women writers. The myth of women's inferiority. Woolf challenges the prevailing notion of women's intellectual inferiority by showcasing the achievements of women throughout history who have made significant contributions to art, literature, and philosophy. She highlights the need to recognize and celebrate women's intellectual capabilities and creative talents. Imagining a female tradition. Woolf envisions the creation of a female literary tradition that is rooted in women's experiences, perspectives, and concerns. She suggests that women should draw inspiration from each other and from their own lives, forging a literary tradition that reflects their unique realities. The constraints of gender roles. Woolf explores the ways in which traditional gender roles and expectations have limited women's opportunities for intellectual and creative pursuits. She argues that the societal division of labor, which assigns women to domestic roles, has hindered their ability to dedicate time and energy to artistic endeavors. The power of observation. Woolf emphasizes the importance of keen observation and the ability to see the world from different perspectives. She suggests that writers, both men and women, should engage in a more nuanced understanding of human experiences and challenge the dominant narratives that perpetuate stereotypes and biases. The need for space and privacy. Woolf asserts that women need physical and mental space, as well as privacy, in order to engage in deep thinking and creative work. She discusses the historical lack of privacy for women due to societal expectations and argues that having a room of one's own is essential for women's intellectual and creative development. Women supporting women. Woolf emphasizes the importance of women supporting and uplifting each other in their artistic pursuits. She encourages women to form networks, share resources, and advocate for each other's work, highlighting the power of collective action in overcoming the barriers they face. The importance of self-expression. Woolf underscores the significance of self-expression and the need for women to assert their own voices and perspectives. She argues that women should not imitate male writers or adhere to traditional norms but should instead explore and embrace their own unique modes of creative expression. A Room of One's Own is a seminal work that continues to shape feminist literary criticism and inspire conversations about gender, creativity, and the obstacles faced by women in the arts. Woolf's nuanced analysis and passionate advocacy for women's intellectual freedom and creative autonomy remain relevant and influential to this day. Women's history and literary opportunities. Woolf delves into the historical constraints faced by women, including limited educational opportunities, legal restrictions, and social biases that hindered their access to literary pursuits. She explores how these systemic barriers have affected women's ability to develop their creative talents and contribute to the literary world. Women's writing as a form of resistance. Woolf examines how women's writing has been a means of resistance against societal constraints and gender inequalities. She explores the ways in which women writers have used their works to challenge prevailing norms, question traditional power structures, and explore alternative narratives and possibilities. Gender and literary criticism. Woolf reflects on the influence of gender on literary criticism and the biases that have shaped interpretations of women's writing. She argues for the need to approach literary analysis with an awareness of gender biases and to develop feminist literary criticism that offers fresh perspectives on women's texts. The importance of material conditions. Woolf emphasizes the significance of material conditions, such as financial stability and a private space, in fostering creativity. She argues that women need economic independence and personal freedom to pursue their artistic endeavors without the distractions and pressures of everyday life. Collaboration between women and men. While acknowledging the historical disparities in power between men and women, Woolf advocates for collaboration and mutual understanding between the sexes. She suggests that men and women should work together to challenge patriarchal structures and create a more inclusive literary landscape. The influence of social expectations. Woolf explores the ways in which social expectations and stereotypes have shaped women's self-perception and limited their aspirations. She highlights the need for women to break free from societal norms and envision new possibilities for their lives and creative pursuits. Artistic and intellectual freedom. Woolf argues for the importance of artistic and intellectual freedom for both men and women. She posits that genuine creativity can only flourish when individuals are liberated from societal constraints and given the space to explore their thoughts and ideas without fear of judgment or censure. The power of fictional characters. Woolf emphasizes the impact of fictional characters in shaping readers' perceptions and understanding of gender roles and possibilities. She calls for the creation of diverse, complex, and relatable female characters that challenge stereotypes and offer new models of womanhood. A Room of One's Own remains a seminal feminist text that sheds light on the historical and social conditions that have shaped women's literary endeavors. Woolf's insightful observations and eloquent arguments continue to inspire discussions on gender, creativity, and the need for equal opportunities in the arts. The relationship between gender and genius. Woolf explores the historical association of genius with masculinity and questions the exclusion of women from this realm. She argues that women have historically been denied the opportunity to develop and showcase their intellectual and creative potential, resulting in a limited understanding of women's capabilities. Women's writing and self-affirmation. Woolf asserts that women's writing serves as a form of self-affirmation and self-expression, allowing women to assert their own identities and experiences. She suggests that through writing, women can challenge societal expectations and redefine their place in the world. Gender and language. Woolf examines the ways in which language has been used to reinforce gender hierarchies and perpetuate male dominance. She advocates for the creation of a more inclusive language that reflects the experiences and perspectives of women, allowing for a more accurate representation of their lives. Freedom from judgment. Woolf highlights the importance of freedom from societal judgment for women's creative development. She argues that women need a safe and supportive environment to experiment, take risks, and explore their artistic visions without fear of criticism or dismissal. The interplay of life and literature. Woolf discusses the interconnectedness of life and literature, asserting that art is influenced by personal experiences and societal realities. She emphasizes the importance of women having diverse life experiences to draw upon for their creative work, challenging the notion that women's writing should be limited to domestic themes. Feminine writing and masculine writing. Woolf rejects the notion of a distinct, feminine, or masculine, writing style. She argues that literature should not be categorized based on gender but should be valued for its artistic merit and contribution to human understanding. A call for equality and equity. Woolf advocates for gender equality and equity, emphasizing the need for women to have the same opportunities, resources, and recognition as men in the literary world. She calls for a restructuring of society that allows women equal access to education, employment, and creative pursuits. The importance of female role models. Woolf emphasizes the significance of female role models for aspiring women writers. She highlights the importance of seeing successful women who have overcome societal barriers and challenges, serving as inspiration and proof of what women are capable of achieving. Imagining a future for women writers. Woolf envisions a future where women have the freedom and support to fully develop their creative talents. She anticipates a time when women's writing is no longer seen as a separate category but as an integral part of the literary canon, enriching human understanding and cultural discourse. A Room of One's Own remains a foundational work in feminist literature, inspiring generations of readers and writers to question societal norms, challenge gender disparities, and advocate for equal opportunities for women in the arts and beyond.